Hello, everyone. I wanted to go over the writing task graphic organizer with you guys. So this is in preparation for the writing task, but as you see here, it's not due until 10/9. So we still have another week, but I wanted to post the prompt for you so you can have an idea of when you're creating and filling out your graphic organizer that you know what prompt you're addressing. So your writing task is going to take the form of an op-ed newspaper article. An op-ed is an opinion editorial op-ed in which you take a position and support your opinion or your position with evidence drawn from the text that we've been reading. So as we see here in this yellow box, this is your prompt, essentially. To what extent should technology companies and news media outlets be responsible for monitoring and preventing the spread of fake news? To what extent is the consumer responsible? Use information drawn from the reading and discussions the core text to support your argument. Wow, that was a tongue twister. To what extent is a consumer responsible? Use information drawn from reading and discussing the core text to support your argument. There you go. Be specific about what should be done and by whom. So I've included questions to consider to help guide not only your writing, but the planning of your op-ed graphic organizer, which essentially is your rough draft. So as you are going back through the text, and I'll go over those in a second, you should be asking yourself, who is responsible for fact-checking the news and preventing fake news from spreading misinformation? How are young people prepared to navigate the landscape of online news? Should schools be required to instruct students on how to identify false sources? These are all questions that we've touched on, questions we've explored, not only in our class discussions on Zoom, but also within the reading. Underneath that are the requirements. So your paper will be a maximum of 2 pages, Times New Roman, double-spaced. You must include 4 direct quotes, 2 from each source, from the sources that we have read in class. And I included those here underneath. So one source that you have to do is the Dominowski, students have a dismaying inability to tell fake news from the real. All right, that's the first one we read, and you're gonna read this one twice. Once during the first week for the general claim, and next, this week, you'll be reading it for the rhetorical analysis of ethos, pathos, and logos. Next, you can choose either article from the jigsaw activity. If you remember, there were 2 articles included in that, right? There was in the wake of the 2016 election about Facebook and Google, and then there was the one where Facebook and Google pledged to stop fake news. So why do they promote the Las Vegas shooting hoaxes? So you're going to choose source 1 has to be the Dominowski article, that Stanford study one. And the second one can be either article from the jigsaw source. Not only that, but your op-ed must also include a counterclaim. And a counterclaim is addressing the opposite argument and then proving why it is not valid. So what do people who disagree with you argue? Why do you disagree with them? And how can you refute their claims? And of course, we'll be going over this also during the week in which you will be responding to this prompt. I just wanted to give you a foresight into that. So if you click on that graphic organizer tab at the bottom of Schoology, it's going to open you up to this editable Google Drawings slide sheet. As you see here, it's organized with your introduction, thesis, reason 1 from source 1, reason 2 from source 2, counter argument, and lastly, the conclusion at the bottom in red. So you see here, I've linked these sources, right? So here's the link to the students have dismaying ability, which you might also want to look at your own copy because it's annotated. Also, the link to the jigsaw activity. And they're also over here as well. So in the introduction, we want to introduce what problem we're discussing, how did this problem come to be, and why is it important? By this time, we've been discussing fake news a lot, looking at statistics on how prevalent it is and a general inability of the public to navigate the landscape of fake news. So this is where you will be including that, right? You want to provide some background topic and explain its significance or its importance as you start to narrow down towards your thesis. And your thesis, as you see here, is going to be in this blue box. So when you're devising your thesis, you should be considering, what is the core issue? What are some positions that people might take? What position do you take? And what is your solution to the problem? And remember, the prompt can be found here, which is on a page in Schoology underneath the agenda. So if you're answering this question, who should be responsible? You should be putting here, the consumer or the social media platform should be responsible because reason 1 and reason 2. Answering this question. And then I would also address, right, in the same way that we would do mapping, which we will also do, how many questions is this asking you? How many things, how many burdens of proof do you have to answer? And as you see here, before I do that, over here on the left, I've included helpful thesis tips for you. So take a look at these in order to kind of boost up your thesis over here in the blue. On the left, you'll see there's reason 1 from source 1, right? So what's your reason? Evidence or quote to support that. Significance, and you see I've included an example, right? One sentence explaining the quote, next sentence explaining how the quote supports your opinion. And then you'll do that again, another quote and another significance. And that's for all for source 1. Source 2, rinse and repeat. What's your reason? Evidence, significance, evidence, significance. So as the prompt states, you need a minimum of 4 quotes. This graphic organizer is going to allow you to achieve that. Lastly, and it depends how you want to split this up. This could be paragraph 1, paragraph 2, and paragraph 3. But you'll see here that there's a counter argument section. And as I explained, the counter argument is the opposing idea. What do people who disagree with you argue? And you can use this sentence frame as a starter. Some may claim that the consumer should be more responsible for navigating the fake news landscape. However, social media platforms should be held responsible because, maybe use a stat, 40% of news-seeking people use Google to find their news, right? So why is this view wrong as yours is right? Essentially is what you're filling in this bottom section. And this all leads down to your conclusion. And as you see here, I've included within the parentheses questions to guide your conclusion. How can you briefly summarize your claim, right? What are you saying? What is your opinion? What actions should be taken to solve this problem, right? You can't say who should be held responsible, social media or the people, without providing a possible solution. And if you remember, a lot of the stuff that we've been practicing in class are possible solutions. Lateral reading, analysis of rhetorical elements, looking at other sources, right? So pull from that knowledge, pull from what you yourself have been practicing, right? I've taught you to reach out and look at these other sources and come back to verify, right? Compare them to other sources, look at the context, the construction, the, context, construction, and the content. Oh my God, I was already blanking. So make sure you're looking at those. Of course, the presentations will be posted for you to refer back to. And I hope you find this helpful. I think this is going to be a very helpful exercise in terms of organizing your essay. And I will help you guys with that next week. All right, take care.